Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of the main philosophers of Stoicism and known for his book Meditations, is remembered as an extraordinary person. Although the idea of being a great man may seem a little confusing, we can hardly find anyone in history more worthy of the title than him. Stoic philosophy teaches that a wise, good, and philosophical person is someone who lives in tune with nature. Such a person fears only failing in their moral responsibilities. They are not afraid of pain, death, poverty, or any challenge that life may present. The real fear is of being disappointed and not reaching fulfillment as a human being. The way Marcus thought and expressed his philosophical ideas can be like a remedy for many of the challenges we face today. I'll explain why his philosophy is so special. Marcus Aurelius was a very important leader in the ancient Roman Empire, ruling from 161 to 180 AD. He was the last in a series of 5 notable emperors and ruled during a period called Pax Romana, which means Roman peace. During Marcus Aurelius's rule, the Roman world experienced the greatest period of stability and tranquility, even though there were the bumps in the road that I'll talk about next. And when he died, this period of peace also came to an end. At the time Marcus Aurelius was emperor, he had the greatest power in the known world. The Romans had a limited view of the world beyond their empire, so from their perspective, Marcus Aurelius was practically the ruler of the world. With this position, he had the power to conquer anything he wished. It was common for Roman emperors to live a life full of pleasure, where money, sex, wine, and any other pleasure that came their way were an integral part. This became something of a tradition for the Roman leaders of the time. Marcus Aurelius had at his disposal any temptation the mind could imagine. He enjoyed total freedom with regard to money, laws, customs, and even ethics. Nothing and no one could stop him from fulfilling his most extravagant desires. Even in the face of all the limitless possibilities, Marcus Aurelius opted for a life of virtue. He decided to be a good man not just at one moment or on one occasion, but every day throughout the 19 years he ruled as emperor. Marcus Aurelius was, in essence, an internally good person. Being a good person doesn't guarantee that you'll be great, but think about facing the incredible limitless possibilities and bravely saying, "No, I choose to be virtuous." Not to receive praise, fame, or admiration, but simply because being good is what matters. That's incredible. Think about it. Imagine being in a sin-tempting situation for almost 20 years. Would you be able to constantly overcome temptation day after day, even though you knew there would be no consequences, no matter what you chose to do? What would you decide? How would you behave? I understand that it would be difficult for us to follow Marcus Aurelius's example. We know that the example was genuine because he showed his best side, even when no one was watching. Meditations. Meditations is a work created by Marcus Aurelius. In fact, it's no ordinary book. It's Marcus Aurelius's personal diary. We can consider this book as Marcus recording his experiences and thoughts as he traveled through life. Its organization doesn't follow a rigid structure, being only loosely divided into 12 parts, in which he recounts his life experiences and thoughts. The notes in this book were never intended to be read by other people or published. They were Marcus Aurelius's intimate thoughts and reflections, intended only for himself. Even though they were personal records and not intended to be shared, Meditations reveals the author's character in depth, since Aurelius wrote them exclusively for himself. Despite this apparently informal character, Meditations is considered one of the most impactful and touching books ever written. The wisdom and humility of one of the most powerful men in history, showing his weaknesses and stumbles and reviewing his learnings and triumphs. There is a very important phrase of his written in his Meditations. He wrote, "The impediment of action becomes the action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Even as the leader of the most powerful army, Marcus Aurelius recognizes that he will face challenges. He is not just taking advantage of the facilities that his position brings. On the contrary, he is aware that obstacles will arise, and what he teaches us is that we can turn these challenges into opportunities to practice virtue, be creative, and develop skills that we might not have considered. It's as if obstacles were training to become better at things we never imagined we could do. Marcus Aurelius reinforces that even with these obstacles in life, nothing can damage your character. He says, "It can only ruin your life if it ruins your character. Otherwise, it can't hurt you inside and out." This is an idea that Marcus talks about several times. He basically asks himself, does this prevent me from acting virtuously or upholding the values I consider important? Does it prevent me from acting with wisdom, justice, balance, or courage? And the answer is always, no, almost nothing stops you. In fact, most of the bad things that happen, like losing your job, running out of money, being humiliated or rejected, are really just new opportunities to practice these virtues. No situation can destroy who we are because, according to the Stoics, our character is something unique. It belongs only to us. It is within us, and it is up to us to decide whether we abandon our character, our principles, whether we choose not to act with virtue, temperance, justice, and courage. In situations like this, we may face difficulties, but nothing external to us has the power to change who we are inside. Even if we find ourselves in prison, face a serious injustice, are persecuted by a mob, or, sadly, an accident tragically happens to you or your family. No one wishes for all these things. No one would say that they are good, or that we should wish for them to happen. But they do happen, and Marcus Aurelius wondered, does this damage who you are inside? No, but the decisions you make in response to these events, these tragedies or these injustices, have an impact on your character. And that's what we need to consider. I believe it's a very high standard to reach. It's a challenging goal. However, during those 19 years, that was Marcus Aurelius's commitment, to get there even if only some of the time, making the world a better place for it. Meditations on nature. Don't you see plants, birds, ants, spiders, and bees carrying out their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And aren't you willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you rushing to do what your nature demands? Marcus Aurelius advocated living in harmony with nature. When he spoke of nature, he wasn't just talking about plants and animals, but also about the natural order of the universe. Trees grow because it is their nature. They strive to reach their full potential and become truly beautiful and strong, not to receive praise or external validation, but simply because that is what they are meant to do. That's the natural order of things. Just as a caterpillar turns into a butterfly and a featherless chick becomes an eagle, it's not because they want to, but because it's the purpose for which they were created. In the same way, Marcus Aurelius believed that human duty was to reach one's maximum potential. He didn't value accumulating material goods or wealth, nor did he seek awards or praise. Marcus saw being human as a call from nature to be the kindest and most virtuous people possible while on this earth. In Marcus's view, reaching the pinnacle of human achievement means realizing one's full potential, and not reaching that potential is like falling into the darkest place possible. After all, we have no control over what the world throws at us, but we do have control over how we react. Regardless of adversity, a great person braves the storms and lives in tune with their fullest, most virtuous potential. Marcus Aurelius sought to find beauty in things, even in the most challenging situations. When observing the world around him, he used to say, "Stop and think about the way bread turns in the oven. Why does that happen? Think about how a pile of grains bends under its own weight," he would say. "Admire the ripe figs that fall from the trees or the ripe olives that break off." The curious thing is that, despite living during a time of great adversity, with a plague ravaging millions, surrounded by negativity, death, and a violent, dirty, and chaotic Rome, Marcus Aurelius managed to see beauty everywhere. He perceived the nature of things as simply beautiful. Thus, he continued to appreciate the essence of things with a poetic touch, as if he were an artist admiring a masterpiece. It's easy to find beauty in looking at a beautiful large mountain, for example. However, if you can find beauty in the midst of the chaos, confusion, and hustle and bustle of everyday life, you will always be close to the source of inspiration and beauty. I believe that this appreciation of beauty, regardless of what the world looks like, is an essential practice for weathering storms and achieving personal happiness, and that is your duty as a human being. Meditations on people. The people I deal with today will be nosy, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, envious, and bad-tempered. They are like that because they can't tell right from wrong. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, which means that while he might enjoy spending the day writing, it wasn't his main responsibility, and he didn't devote much time to it. His job involved dealing with a variety of issues and dealing with many people. Above all, Marcus believed that bad, perverse, or otherwise negative individuals were an inevitable part of our world. Expecting the world not to present us with such people would be like asking a plant to grow without thorns. That would be absurd. It simply isn't possible. Marcus maintained that bad people exist and that you will meet them throughout your life. However, he maintained a belief in the genuine goodness of people, believing that even in difficult situations, people generally do not wish to do evil. This even included difficult times, such as when he was betrayed by his general. Towards the end of Marcus Aurelius's rule, he became a little ill. There was a rumor that he had died. It was then that one of his most trusted generals, Avidius Cassius, declared himself emperor. It may seem like a small thing, but it was like a death sentence for Marcus Aurelius's entire family. Basically, it meant that the man he lived with, trusted, and had built something meaningful with was secretly plotting to stab him in the back all along. However, the problem was that Marcus wasn't dead and wasn't even close. He was fine. Now, the situation is that Marcus needs to decide what his next course of action will be. What makes this more fascinating is that Marcus didn't get angry. He didn't seek revenge. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity. He told his men, he communicated to the Senate, "I'm going to turn this into an opportunity to teach the Roman people and history how to deal with internal conflicts." So he didn't let anger overwhelm him, nor did he harbor any desire to destroy Avidius Cassius. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "There is only one thing that worries me, my soldiers, and that is the fear that Cassius will commit suicide out of shame at coming before us, or that someone else will do so on learning that I am approaching and preparing to confront him. If that happens," Marcus says, "I really will have been deprived of something, a prize that no human being has ever won." Now the question is, what would that prize be? Marcus Aurelius says, "Offer forgiveness to those who have caused us harm, maintain friendship with those who have damaged trust, and remain loyal to those who have broken faith." Marcus declares, "No one deserves to be condemned for this civil war. No one should suffer punishment for it." He advises the Senate, "Let's avoid bloodshed on all these hands." And indeed, the most feared situation comes true. Someone executes Cassius. Marcus was saddened by this as he realized that it wasn't a good thing, of course. He didn't want it to happen, but he saw an opportunity to teach people that even in the midst of a dispute over the imperial throne, it wasn't necessary for Rome to plunge into a violent, bloody, and terrible civil war. Marcus managed to avoid such an outcome and, in a beautiful way, demonstrated his commitment to the principles he shared in the Meditations. So we have no control over who the universe sends us, whether they are immoral, wicked, or lazy people. If we can't help these people, which is usually not possible, we have to deal with it. To deal with this situation, Marcus suggests that we should look inside ourselves. He writes to himself, "Hey Marcus, you have flaws too. Who are you to judge? Maybe you have imperfections different from those of people who are considered bad, but still, Marcus, you have your own flaws." In another conversation on a different day, perhaps you, Marcus, were misinformed. "Marcus, it's possible that you just don't understand." He reminded himself, "Hey, you can't even be sure that they're doing something wrong. The thief who steals to feed his family isn't doing anything wrong, you just don't understand. And many times in life, you won't understand and you won't be aware of it." So, once again, avoid making hasty judgments. Marcus Aurelius believed that we are born for each other. He often reminded us that this is the natural order of things. Just as a tree produces fruit to feed the animals, and the animals die to provide food for the worms, in the natural world we were all created for the purpose of helping each other. This, once again, is what we consider our duty. Even in the face of all the challenges and betrayals, Marcus Aurelius continued to put people first. How did he put them first? Well, there's an incredible story about him. It happened during the terrible Antonine Plague, a pandemic that claimed the lives of millions of people. With Rome's economy in ruins and the streets littered with the dead, the situation seemed hopeless. What did he do? He went around the imperial palace selling his belongings. For 2 months, he displayed his jewelry, luxurious robes and sofas in the royal courtyard. He was sending a clear message. "I'm not going to put myself first. I don't need these extravagances when people are suffering. I'm going to choose to do the little things that make a difference." This is the leader who sacrifices himself, striving to prioritize people's needs over his own comfort. This is what truly expresses greatness. As Marcus teaches, true greatness lies in considering mutual benefit. The only real failure in life would be to abdicate that responsibility. So, Marcus, you'd better do it, and you'd better do it well. Meditations on future. Never let the future disturb you. You will face it, if necessary, with the same weapons of reason that today arm you against the present. We all face difficult times, and Marcus Aurelius also had his challenges. However, just as we encounter not-so-good people, Marcus understood that dealing with adversity is part of the human experience. As we learned earlier, we can only influence what is within our reach, so there's no point in wishing bad things wouldn't happen. Marcus considered that a foolish idea. These challenging situations will arise, and there is nothing we can do to avoid them. However, what you can control, Marcus, is how you react to them. Be prepared to face the challenges when they arise, because they will arise. You know that this is inevitable. When that time comes, don't be sad, because something unpleasant has happened. Don't blame yourself, don't mourn. Instead, feel fortunate that you have the skills and mindset to overcome these obstacles. Marcus talks to himself, saying, "Face these moments like a brave man. Face the challenges with courage and win." In doing so, realize that what seemed bad was actually not so bad. It was just a chance to show resilience, to grow, to move forward. Marcus Aurelius advises, when these difficult situations arise, don't whine, act and be resilient. Either you can bear it or you can't. And if eventually something unbearable crosses your path, don't feel ashamed, Marcus. He says, all men face death, but not all face death by complaining. Marcus reinforces the idea that even though the future is uncertain, we should think about being the best we can be today. He says, you could be good today, but instead, you choose tomorrow. He reflects on the phrase he read from Epictetus, who said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself and for yourself?" Just as Seneca also said, all fools have one thing in common: they are always postponing life. In other words, Marcus Aurelius encourages us to seize the opportunities that arise. Don't put off forgiveness, reconciliation, or the sincere expression of your feelings until later. Do it now. Don't live an unsatisfactory life. Don't accept unhappiness. Don't continue in a job that doesn't bring you satisfaction, hoping that one day it will turn into something better. Act in the present, seeking happiness and meaning in your daily choices. We have no idea how long we are here. That's what this memento mori exercise is reminding us. Marcus Aurelius advises, do everything as if you were a man whose days are numbered, because the truth is that we are all dying. We were given a fatal diagnosis at birth. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. That's what he means when he says, look, you could have this today. You could be good today. You could do all the things you need to do today. But instead, we tell ourselves that we'll wait until tomorrow. But what if tomorrow never comes? Meditations on wealth. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go. Marcus Aurelius was a very wealthy man, but he didn't necessarily see this as a bad thing. Unlike some philosophers who criticized the possession of material goods, Marcus didn't condemn wealth itself. However, he approached this issue with caution, taking care of how he related to the things he owned. Marcus Aurelius could have achieved anything he wanted: money, luxury homes, works of art, expensive wine, but he opted for a different point of view. He advised himself, Marcus, don't waste time dreaming about material possessions. They have no real meaning. They don't fulfill your true potential. Only you can do that. Reflect on what you already have and value it. Recognize how much you would want them if they weren't in your life. But Marcus, be careful with yourself, he advises. Don't value them so much that you get discouraged if they disappear. They're not essential. They're good, but not essential. They don't contribute to your development as a person. They don't make you more virtuous or kind. True human potential goes beyond the accumulation of goods, Marcus. You must live in harmony with nature. This means that you don't feel guilty when you succeed, and at the same time, you don't feel worthless when you face difficulties or failures. You prevent pride from creeping in and making you believe that you are superior to others. What's more, you have such solid confidence that you face challenges with ease. It doesn't matter if you're being praised, criticized, or not taken seriously. You deal with these situations in the same way, because external things, whether you're at the top or the bottom, don't define who you are. Your character, as Marcus Aurelius said, is what really matters. Those other things are external circumstances. Certainly it's great to be successful, But when facing blessings and adversity, we seek to accept the blessings with humility and face the problems with indifference. To face problems with indifference, I have a message for you. Don't miss the chance to apply Stoic principles to deal with life's adversities. Grab the Stoic Mindset ebook now and discover how to cultivate serenity in the midst of chaos, make wiser decisions, and overcome adversity with mental strength. Click on the link in the first pinned comment and embark on your journey of wisdom. Meditations on death. Soon you will have forgotten everything. Soon everyone will have forgotten you. Marcus Aurelius spent a lot of time thinking about death. His ideas on the subject were uncomplicated. Death is on its way, whether you want it to be or not. He repeatedly told himself that death is beyond your control. So don't waste your time fearing it or worrying about mortality. Just as nature designed us to be kind, to help each other and to reach our full potential, nature also designed us to die. Death is a natural part of life. So while you're here, live, be kind, play your part in nature and eventually accept death, because it is also part of that part. This can be seen as an intense freedom for us, because we know that this day will come, and perhaps we won't be remembered. I know this may sound a bit sad, but it can be liberating to live the life you want. A very clear example of this is the death of Queen Elizabeth II. She passed away in September last year, and you probably don't see anyone talking about her anymore. My point here is to show you the freedom that Marcus Aurelius brought us with this thought, that the judgments of others are only judgments, and that in the end they will be forgotten, because what will be remembered are our deeds. As Marcus Aurelius said, objective judgment now, at this very moment, unselfish action now, at this very moment, willing acceptance now, at this very moment of all external events. It's like seeing the world as it is, accepting things for what they are. Avoid hasty judgments. Becoming a good person involves acting in a positive way. This goes beyond being a good colleague, a good citizen, someone who is generous and caring, someone who doesn't just focus on themselves. Practice voluntary acceptance instead of complaining about circumstances, avoiding feeling persecuted or wronged, and accepting that we can't change the past. Focus on voluntary acceptance right now in the face of all external events. He is not suggesting that you passively accept all situations. He is guiding you to accept the facts, and from them create something new. The message is that you have the power to impact the world, but you can't change what happened in the past or change other people. The focus should be on the actions you take in the face of the facts that present themselves. This is the essence of what it means to be Stoic. Marcus Aurelius, along with other sages, was one of the pioneers of the philosophy called Stoicism. The Stoics had diverse beliefs covering logic, ethics, physics, and other fields. However, one fundamental idea permeates Stoic philosophy: the difference between pleasure and happiness. Wealth, fame, and even achieving goals were things that brought brief moments of external joy. However, this is not true happiness. Happiness wasn't something so fleeting. The idea of happiness was something deeper. It was an internal state that arose from within. It didn't depend on being an emperor like Marcus Aurelius. It wasn't tied to worldly things. Stoic teaching stated that in order to find happiness, you had to live a virtuous life. You had to constantly seek self-improvement and become the best version of yourself. The only real failure, the only genuine pain, the only sadness worth fearing was disappointing yourself by not reaching your full potential. This was because, and only because, being great was a responsibility. Greatness was internally linked to his very nature. This nature is what will armor us, so that nothing can affect us. To achieve this, the Stoics used 8 Stoic principles. Click on the video on the screen and watch it now.